Hey everyone, welcome to the deep dive. Ever noticed how some words they just stick with you? Maybe changing your mind or pushing you forward.
Yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? That power they have.
Exactly. And today we're unpacking that incredible, enduring power, the power of words to, ignite change, foster resilience, and sometimes reveal opportunities we might have totally missed otherwise.
It really is a fascinating journey when you consider how humans, across millennia, have harnessed this really fundamental force.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today, well, it's to distill some crucial insights from this really rich stack of sources you've shared with us. We've got everything from classical philosophy, rhetoric,
Right.
all the way to modern personal development guides,
Mm-hmm.
and some really profound calls for social justice, too.
So we're going to explore the fundamental principles behind, let's say, truly effective communication,
Yeah.
and maybe uncover pathways to personal empowerment.
And examine that unwavering pursuit of a more just world.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, this deep dive is really about understanding the craft of persuasion, the sheer strength that comes from conviction, and also that spirit of daring greatly.
whether we're looking at a pivotal historical speech, maybe someone's personal transformation, or even a sweeping social movement, it applies across the board.
Get ready for some serious aha moments, hopefully. Ones that won't just inform you, but maybe equip you with new perspective to navigate your own challenges or inspire those around you. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So let's maybe begin our exploration by examining the very anatomy of persuasion, sort of tracing its evolution from, the profound insights of ancient orators all the way to modern approaches to influence.
Sounds good.
And really, where better to start than with the classical foundations of rhetoric itself? Seems like the obvious place.
Absolutely. You really have to begin with Aristotle. He truly laid a fundamental groundwork for understanding how we move minds, how we persuade.
Okay, so how did he define it? Was it just about sounding smart?
Not at all. He defined rhetoric not merely as, eloquent speaking, but as the power of seeing what is capable of being persuasive on each subject.
Capable of being persuasive. That's interesting phrasing.
It is. And what's critically important here, and I think often misunderstood, is that he wasn't just talking about presenting absolute truth.
Ah, okay.
He also focused on what is similar to what is true, which really emphasizes the practical rather than purely philosophical nature of persuasion.
That's a crucial distinction, isn't it? Because it immediately tells us that rhetoric often operates in a world where, absolute verifiable truth might be hard to come by.
Or maybe, in the heat of a public debate, it's not even the main goal.
Right. It highlights the art of constructing a compelling argument even when you're dealing with probabilities or maybe just deeply held beliefs in the audience.
Exactly. So how does one achieve this kind of persuasion, especially for a broad audience, according to Aristotle?
Yeah. How does that work practically?
Well, he explains that rhetoric primarily leverages things called syllogisms and enthymemes.
Syllogisms and enthymemes. Okay, break those down a bit.
Sure. So a syllogism relies on universally accepted truths to reach a conclusion, very logically. Like, all men are mortal, Socrates is a man, therefore Socrates is mortal. Pretty straightforward.
Got it. Standard logic.
But an enthymeme is particularly potent for addressing a multitude, for public speaking. It's basically a rhetorical syllogism, but it's often incomplete.
Incomplete. How so?
One of the premises is implied, not stated outright. It draws on shared beliefs and common understandings within an audience, even if they don't have precise scientific knowledge.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, think about a campaign slogan like stronger communities, safer homes.
Okay.
The unstated premise, the enthymeme, is something like strong communities naturally lead to safer homes. It's a shared belief, right?
Right. People generally accept that.
So it bypasses the need for explicit data connecting the two, making it incredibly persuasive for a broad audience because it just taps into those pre-existing notions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about connecting with what people already believe or generally accept, rather than needing to build an argument from pure logic every single time. Super efficient, really.
Exactly. It's incredibly efficient for moving people.
And Aristotle also had a very strong belief about the inherent power of truth and justice, didn't he? Even within this, practical art of persuasion.
He did, yes. And it's a really profound ethical underpinning to his view of rhetoric. He firmly believed that things that are true and things that are just are by nature stronger than their opposite.
By nature stronger.
Yeah. And the implication here is pretty significant. If decisions don't turn out the way they should, if injustice prevails,
Hmm.
it's often because persuasion failed. It failed to adequately present the stronger, more truthful case.
Wow. So it's a call to arms, almost like be a better advocate for what's right?
Pretty much, it suggests the fault lies not with truth being weak, but maybe with the failure of its advocates to make the case effectively.
Which leads to another fascinating aspect. Aristotle believed that rhetoric, much like dialectic, teaches how to argue opposite things. Now, that might sound a bit counterintuitive, maybe even, I don't know, dangerous to some, like
Yeah.
teaching someone how to mislead. How did he justify that?
It's really vital to clarify his intent there. This wasn't about promoting wrongdoing or deceit, not at all.
Okay.
Instead, he argued it was so that the way things are might not go unnoticed. And in order that, if someone else uses arguments unjustly, we ourselves might have the means to refute them.
Ah, okay, so it's about preparation.
Yeah,
Defense?
exactly. It's about intellectual preparedness, understanding all the angles of an argument so you can defend against manipulation, so you can truly grasp the weaknesses in an unjust argument and effectively dismantle it.
It empowers you to see the whole landscape of a debate, not just your side.
Precisely.
Fascinating. So, if Aristotle gave us this sort of practical framework for the mechanics of persuasion, his philosophical predecessor, Plato, offered a much more, let's say, cautious view, even critical.
Oh, definitely the critical, especially when rhetoric gets divorced from truth. We see this so vividly in dialogues like Gorgias and Phaedrus.
Right, Gorgias. What happens there?
Well, in Gorgias, you have the sophist, Gorgias himself, proudly asserting that his art is purely speech, it's concerned with right and wrong, and it grants immense power through persuasion. He claims it can make the weak strong, override other arts.
Sounds pretty confident.
Extremely. But then Socrates challenges him directly. He draws this stark distinction between conviction based on knowledge, which must be true, and rationally defensible,
Okay, knowledge.
and conviction based purely on belief, which, can be false.
Right, belief can be mistaken.
And Socrates argued pretty vehemently that oratory often operates purely in that realm of mere belief, especially for an ignorant audience who are swayed by appearance rather than substance.
Ouch. So he wasn't a fan.
He basically called it a knack, like cookery or flattery, rather than a true art based on knowledge. A form of pandering, really.
Yeah. And this leads to that really pivotal, almost uncomfortable moment in the dialogue, doesn't it? The shameful truth bit.
Yes, exactly. Socrates corners Polus, who's Gorgias' student. Polus initially argues that doing wrong might actually be more profitable because of the power it brings.
Yeah, the ends justify the means argument.
Right. But Socrates pushes him, and eventually Polus concedes that doing wrong is actually more shameful than suffering wrong, even if it seems more beneficial in the short term.
Why is that concession so important?
Because it reveals this deep societal ambivalence, right, where public perception, honor, what looks good, often conflicts with private gain or advantage. Socrates leverages this brilliantly to show that status and power, if they aren't built on goodness or a moral foundation, are ultimately hollow, internally contradictory even.
He exposes the hypocrisy in prioritizing gain over virtue. Powerful stuff.
Very.
So if Gorgias is quite critical, painting rhetoric as potentially dangerous, maybe manipulative,
Yeah.
does Plato soften his stance at all in Phaedrus? Is there a version of rhetoric he does approve of?
He definitely offers a more nuanced perspective in Phaedrus, though it's still incredibly demanding. He suggests that true rhetoric requires profound knowledge of truth, specifically philosophical truth.
Ah, so it needs a philosophical foundation.
Exactly. He contrasts it sharply with what he calls an unsystematic knack that just chases popular opinion. For Plato, a genuine orator must basically be a philosopher. They need to understand the soul, understand different types of arguments, and fundamentally know what is truly good.
That's a high bar.
It is. And he also points out the limitations of written speech. He says it cannot answer back, right? It risks being misunderstood or misused because the speaker isn't there to defend or clarify it.
Like a text message versus a conversation.
Kind of. The ideal, for Plato, remains that dynamic exchange of philosophic dialogue. That's where true education and the real pursuit of truth happen, where ideas are living, breathing things.
Okay. So, if ancient Greek philosophy laid down this theoretical and ethical groundwork for persuasion, the later Roman rhetoricians like Cicero and Quintilian, they seem to focus much more intensely on crafting speeches for maximum practical impact, right? Elevating it almost to an art form?
They certainly did. Cicero's ideal orator, the perfectus orator, needed a speech that was, in his Latin, Oratio gravis et ornata et hominum sensibus augmentibus accommodata.
Okay, whoa, translate that for us.
Huh. It means speech that was serious in content, ornate or elegant in style, and crucially adapted to human feelings and minds.
Adapted to feelings and minds, so emotion is key.
Absolutely key. This highlights that truly impactful speech isn't just about information or even just logical arguments. It needs to be emotionally resonant, elegant, and perfectly tailored to the audience's psychological state to really move them, to win them over.
It's about hitting both the head and the heart.
Precisely. Combining reason with passion.
And Quintilian, in his big work, Institutio Oratoria, he basically gave us a practical, almost like a step-by-step guide for training such an orator, didn't he?
Yes, it's incredibly comprehensive. Quintilian systematized oratory into those 5 traditional divisions you often hear about. Invention, which is finding your arguments.
Right.
Arrangement, structuring them. Expression, word choice and style. Memory, and delivery.
And what were his key contributions on the delivery side, especially the psychological aspects, getting the audience on board?
He placed immense, almost theatrical importance on emotion. He stated it so vividly. Fire alone can kindle and moisture alone can wet.
I like that.
It means an orator must genuinely cultivate the emotions they wish to inspire in the audience within themselves first. You have to feel it to make them feel it.
So you can't just phone it in, you have to embody the feeling.
Exactly. Only by feeling the anger or the sorrow or the conviction can they appear truly sincere and effectively move their listeners. He gives this great example of Cicero defending Ligarius, where Cicero made his case deeply moving, not just by presenting facts, but by, as Quintilian put it, giving a reason for it, and at the same time colored it with emotion. He linked the dry facts to profound human feeling moral outrage. The orator, Quintilian argued, has to become, just for that moment, the embodiment of the emotion they want to evoke.
Wow. So the ancients really gave us the principles: logic, truth, ethics, emotional resonance. How do these translate to more modern voices on influence and achieving goals? Because you definitely see echoes of this stuff everywhere, even if it's repackaged.
That's a great way to put it. Repackaged, but the core ideas are often still there. A fantastic modern example is Simon Sinek's Start With Why.
Yes. Very popular concept.
Right. And he argues that inspiring deep loyalty and action goes way beyond just communicating what you do or how you do it.
It's about the purpose behind it all.
Exactly. True inspiration, he posits, starts with the why, that core cause, purpose, or belief that drives you. He uses the Wright brothers as an example.
How?
They didn't just talk about what they were building an airplane or how, ingenious mechanics. They had a dream. They knew why it was important to achieve human flight, imagining the benefits, the new possibilities for humanity.
And people bought into that vision, the why.
Precisely. Not just the technology itself. It tapped into something deeper.
That's a powerful way to frame it. Shifting from features to purpose, from product to impact. Okay, moving from the why to more sort of practical applications of influence and goal getting, Tony Robbins offers some compelling strategies. These seem to connect directly to understanding human psychology.
Yeah, Robbins introduces the concept of metaprograms. These are essentially unconscious internal filters that shape how individuals perceive information, process it, react to it.
Okay, like personality types, but maybe more specific to how we process things.
Sort of. And understanding and adapting your communication style to align with someone's dominant metaprograms, he argues, is absolutely crucial for building rapport and, being effective.
Can you give an example of a metaprogram?
Sure. Some people are very detail-oriented. They need specifics. They ask how and what are the steps. Others are more big-picture thinkers. They want the why and what's the overall vision.
Right. I know people like both of those.
Exactly. So if you're presenting a project, a how person needs that step-by-step breakdown up front, whereas a why person needs the ultimate benefit and the grand vision first. Just adapting to that simple distinction can dramatically improve how your message lands.
That sounds like a really powerful tool for tailoring your message. Makes sense. And he also talks a lot about how we frame our own experiences, right? Which connects directly to our inner landscape, our resilience.
Yes, reframing is a core technique in his work. Robbins teaches how to consciously change the meaning we attach to an experience to create a more positive or empowering emotional state.
So changing how you think about something that happened.
Pretty much. Instead of thinking, my boss yells at me, this is terrible, you could reframe it as, wow, it's great that he cares enough to express his feelings openly. It shows he's invested.
Or maybe this large tax bill means I earn significantly more this year.
Exactly. That's a classic reframe. It's about shifting your perspective to empower yourself. Recognizing that while you can't always control external events, you can control the meaning they have for you.
These strategies are all about intentionality, aren't they? Controlling your internal state and how you present yourself and your ideas. Earl Nightingale, with his really seminal work, The Strangest Secret, he zeroes in on the power of thought itself. It sounds like ancient wisdom in a very direct package.
Nightingale's central idea is both incredibly simple and profound.
Hmm.
We literally become what we think about.
Become what we think about.
He argues that our thoughts are formative. They literally shape our reality, our success, our failures. He emphasizes the absolute necessity to control our thoughts if we are to control our lives.
Why? What's the mechanism?
Because, he says, we operate under a kind of natural law. As you sow, so shall you reap. Applied to thoughts. What you plant in your mind is what grows. It's a direct call for intentional mental cultivation.
And he had that practical experiment, right?
Yes, the 30-day experiment he proposed. For 1 month, focus exclusively on a single, clearly defined positive goal. Write it down, review it daily, and actively block out all negative or distracting thoughts related to it.
Just to prove the power of focus.
Exactly, to prove to yourself the power of focused mental energy in manifesting desired outcomes. A very practical test drive of the principle.
So it's not just about what you say or how you act, but fundamentally what you think and allow to take root in your mind. And Ziglar seems to build right on this with his relentless emphasis on attitude control, connecting it to, like, a daily discipline.
Ziglar absolutely underscores the importance of feeding your mind with positive input every single day, just as diligently as you'd nourish your physical body.
Like mental nutrition.
Exactly. He advocates for adopting an enthusiastic "I can" mindset, seeing challenges not as roadblocks but as opportunities. His philosophy is that your mental diet, the books you read, the people you hang out with, the thoughts you entertain, is just as crucial as your physical diet.
For determining your well-being, resilience, success.
All of it. It's about conscious, consistent, positive self-talk and surrounding yourself with positive input to maintain an empowering attitude. Daily work.
Okay. Moving from that external art of persuasion to the inner landscape. Let's transition into section 2. Cultivating courage, purpose, and resilience. This feels like it's really about the inner game, right? The strength that allows us to act on our convictions.
And a perfect entry point here is Russell H. Conwell's powerful philosophy, encapsulated in his famous lecture, Acres of Diamonds.
Acres of Diamonds. I know that title. What's the core idea?
His core idea, which is often overlooked, I think, is that in this country of ours, every man has the opportunity to make more of himself than he does in his own environment, with his own skill, with his own energy, and with his own friends.
So look close to home first.
Exactly. It's a profound, almost revolutionary call to look inward and locally for opportunities. It really challenges that common notion that the grass is always greener somewhere else.
That resonates so strongly because it pushes back against that belief that you need to go somewhere else or be someone else entirely to find success. It suggests we often chase distant dreams while overlooking the gold right under our feet. And he illustrates this so beautifully with that parable of Ali Hafed, doesn't he?
Well, he does, and it's a story that truly sticks with you.
Yeah.
Ali Hafed, this ancient Persian farmer, I think, sold his farm to search the world for legendary diamond mines. He traveled everywhere.
Did you find them?
No. He ended up dying poor and disheartened, never finding his fortune. Meanwhile, the guy who bought his old farm,
Yeah.
one day his camel sticks its nose in a stream on the property and he sees a funny-looking rock. Turns out, it's a massive diamond. The farm was sitting on top of acres of diamonds, the famed Golconda mines.
No way. The treasure was there all along.
Exactly. The moral is crystal clear and timeless. Look for opportunities right within the sound of your voice, in your own environment, using your existing skills and networks, before you abandon what you have for some unknown, idealized future.
That's such a vivid image. It really drives home how often we can overlook local riches, the opportunities right there, because we're conditioned to think value has to come from far away or be incredibly complex.
Right. And he gives another great example of this kind of self-imposed blindness, too.
Oh, yeah. What's that one?
The anecdote of the farmer in Massachusetts, Newburyport, I think, who for years sat on this big gray rock near his stone fence, used it as a seat.
Okay. Just a rock.
Or so he thought. He eventually sold his homestead. The new owner was trying to get a cart through the fence, struggled with this rock, got frustrated, hit it,
Yeah.
and discovered it was a block of native silver, 8 inches square, part of a rich vein.
Unbelievable, sitting on a silver mine without knowing it.
It's a powerful illustration of how we can be utterly blind to the wealth and potential in our immediate surroundings, just because we don't know what we're looking for or we dismiss it as ordinary.
Conwell also tackles a common and often pretty cynical misconception about wealth itself, doesn't he? That idea that if a person has money, he is very dishonest. He pushes back hard on that.
He really does. He directly confronts that stereotype.
Yeah.
He argues that 98 out of 100 of the rich men of America are honest. That is why they're rich.
Because they're honest, that's his argument.
Yes. He frames wealth not as inherently corrupting, but often as a result of integrity, trustworthiness, hard work, and good judgment in business. People trust them with money because they are honest. He even shared a story from his dad's store about how providing good service, like having a jackknife ready for the third man who asked, was just good, ethical business that led to deserved reward.
Interesting take, connecting honesty directly to prosperity. And his example of success coming from scarcity, leveraging what's immediately available, that feels like it really embodies the acres of diamonds philosophy.
It absolutely does. He tells this inspiring story of a toy maker in Hingham, Massachusetts. This guy was facing really dire circumstances out of work. No money to buy lumber.
So what did he do?
Well, he only had a penknife.
Yeah.
But instead of despairing, he actually consulted his own children, asked them what kind of toys they wanted.
Smart move. Market research.
Basically. Then he used readily available firewood, stuff he could just find, and whittled these strong, unpainted Hingham toys. Simple, durable, child-tested.
Yeah.
They became known worldwide, made him immensely wealthy. It's a perfect example of leveraging local needs, what his kids wanted. Simple resources, firewood, and a knife and imaginative insight derived right from his immediate environment. He turned constraint into a catalyst.
Amazing. These stories make it really clear that the inner game often involves recognizing and acting on the opportunities right in front of you. But it also requires immense inner fortitude, doesn't it? A resilience that isn't dependent on external circumstances. Which brings us beautifully to the Stoic path and that search for meaning, even in the deepest adversity.
Yeah, and Seneca's Letters from a Stoic offer such profound practical insights into developing that self-sufficiency and virtue, especially for navigating life's inevitable rough patches.
What's the core Stoic ideal here?
It's about being utterly self-sufficient, even if you're completely isolated. Seneca compares it to Jupiter's ability to retire into himself and give himself over to his own thoughts, finding contentment within.
So virtue isn't about external success.
Not primarily. For Seneca, virtue is an internal good. It's a state of character, and it's equally praiseworthy, whether fortune smiles on it with external success or challenges it with hardship. The strength comes from within, regardless of what the outside world throws at you.
So it's about cultivating a resilience that's independent of what happens to you, a deep internal locus of control.
Exactly.
And this includes a very particular, maybe almost counterintuitive stance on fear and dangers.
Precisely. Seneca argues that a brave person will merely not fear them, though he will avoid them.
Avoids them but doesn't fear them. How does that work?
It's not about being reckless. It's an understanding that true dangers, things like death, pain, imprisonment, these are not evils, but only seem to be.
They only seem to be evils.
Yeah. They are, in his words, the bugbears of man's existence. Things that scare us because we've allowed our minds to attach undue significance and fear to them. The ultimate goal, he says, is to despise pleasure and glory, see them as fleeting and ultimately not that important.
And focus instead on
Cultivating internal virtue and that serene acceptance of what is genuinely beyond our control. Focus on your response, not the event itself.
He also really emphasizes the dominion of the soul over the body, right? A central Stoic idea that feels very relevant today with all the focus on external things.
Absolutely. Seneca passionately asserts that it's the soul should be filled with wisdom and virtue, not the strong box with material possessions.
Fill the soul, not the bank account.
Pretty much. The soul, not the body, should be the master. And he states quite plainly, no man is free who is a slave to his body. It's a call for internal freedom, a kind of rigorous detachment from physical desires, external comforts, fleeting societal approval.
To truly be master of oneself.
That's the goal. Prioritize inner wealth and self-control above all else.
And if Seneca explored resilience in the face of life's sort of unpredictable turns, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning offers just a chillingly powerful, deeply moving testament to finding purpose, even in the most extreme adversity imaginable, the Nazi concentration camps.
Frankel's work is just profound. Through his horrific experiences in Auschwitz and other camps, he developed logotherapy, which is a school of psychotherapy that fundamentally highlights that meaning can be found, even in the most extreme situations.
Even there, how?
His insight was that even when everything else is stripped away, your dignity, your family, freedom, physical health, the unique opportunity for meaning still lies in how one bears the burden. It lies in the attitude one chooses towards suffering.
The choice of attitude.
Yes. He witnessed firsthand that those who managed to find some meaning, however small maybe, caring for another prisoner, holding on to a memory, hoping for the future, often had a greater chance of survival. Their inner world gave them strength.
And this directly counters that idea of meaninglessness, which he saw as a significant modern challenge, right? He even called it learned meaninglessness.
Exactly. Frankl addresses this concept directly. He stresses that it is a question about the attitude that a person takes towards the various challenges and opportunities of life.
So meaning isn't just out there waiting to be found.
Not passively, no. It's something we discover through our response to circumstances, even the most horrific ones. It's about consciously choosing a response, finding purpose in responsibility, maybe in love, or even in suffering itself, if it's faced with dignity.
Suffering itself can be an achievement. Wow. These thinkers really underscore the profound importance of our inner world, our mindset, our choices. And speaking of inner worlds, Brené Brown's work, especially in Daring Greatly, brings to light the critical role of vulnerability, wordiness, and connection in our lives, often in really unexpected ways.
Brown's extensive research, based on literally thousands of interviews, reveals something fundamental. Connection is why we're here. It's a core human need.
Like food and water.
On a psychological level, yes. And the core fear that gets in the way of this connection is disconnection. That profound primal fear of being unlovable and unworthy.
That fear drives so much of our behavior, doesn't it? Pushing us to put up walls, armor up, avoid really engaging.
Absolutely. It makes us hide parts of ourselves.
So if that fear of disconnection is so pervasive, how do we overcome it? How do we cultivate that vital sense of belonging? What's her antidote?
She introduces the concept of shame resilience as the
Shame resilience.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does that involve?
It's not just about feeling better after you feel ashamed. It's more about developing the internal muscle to recognize shame when it hits you, understand your triggers, and critically reaching out for empathy from trusted people rather than withdrawing into isolation, which is shame's natural impulse. It's about owning our story, even the messy parts, even when it feels vulnerable.
And she found a key difference between people who feel connected and those who struggle.
Yes. The only variable separating those who feel a strong sense of love and belonging from those who struggle for it was this. The people who feel it believe they are worthy of love and belonging.
It's an internal belief.
Exactly. An internal belief system. And it's cultivated, she argues, through empathy, courage, and compassion, both for ourselves and others. That belief empowers genuine, authentic connection.
And in the context of, say, leadership or parenting or education, she talks about minding the gap. What does that mean for leading with integrity?
Minding the gap refers to that crucial, sometimes uncomfortable space between our stated values, what we say we believe in, and our actual actions, how we really behave.
Ah, the walk doesn't match the talk.
Precisely. Minding the gap requires consciously aligning values with action. It means embracing vulnerability as leaders, parents, educators. Brown stresses it's not about being perfect. That's impossible. And striving for it is often paralyzing.
So what is it about?
It's about being engaged and committed to living our values, being willing to openly acknowledge when we fall short, and having the courage to lean into discomfort for the sake of integrity and genuine connection.
It's also important, though, to differentiate genuine vulnerability, which builds trust, from something that might seem similar but is actually counterproductive, like just oversharing everything. Brown is very clear on this distinction, right?
Oh, absolutely clear. And it's a crucial distinction. She warns against what she calls floodlighting, or sometimes smash and grab vulnerability.
The floodlighting.
Yeah, imagine meeting a new colleague and, like, within 5 minutes, launching into a deeply personal account of past trauma or current relationship struggles. That's floodlighting.
Okay, yeah, that would be a lot.
Right. It's not building trust through mutual reciprocal vulnerability that deepens over time. It's more like unilaterally unloading, often as a kind of test, can you handle my stuff? Or maybe a cry for help, or just a way to soothe one's own immediate pain.
And what's the result?
It typically overwhelms people, it pushes them away, it leads to disconnection, distrust, and disengagement. Exactly the opposite of what true vulnerability aims to achieve.
So it's about understanding the when and the with whom for vulnerability. It requires discernment.
Absolutely. It's not about indiscriminate disclosure.
Okay. From the inner game to outward action. Let's transition now into section 3, advocating for change. This is where we look at challenging injustice and indifference head on. This feels like where individual conviction, once it's cultivated, really meets the world in a powerful call for transformation.
And we begin with some truly powerful voices for the oppressed. Figures like Sojourner Truth, who just masterfully unveiled hypocrisy and demanded justice, drawing strength from her lived experience and incredible oratory.
She embodied what many at the time considered, horrifyingly, two most hated elements of humanity, being Black and she was a woman.
And she leveraged that very dual identity to speak with an unparalleled moral authority on systemic injustice.
And despite not being formally educated, her insight was just profound, wasn't it? Almost prophetic. She famously said, "I can't read a book, but I can read the people."
That statement just encapsulates her genius, doesn't it? It shows this deep, intuitive understanding of human nature, societal dynamics, power structures. It transcended formal learning.
She could see right through things.
She possessed this innate ability to cut through all the superficial rhetoric and get directly to the heart of issues. She connected with her audience on a visceral, undeniable level because her experience was her authority.
And she didn't mince words, did she? She called people out.
Not at all. She called for men, both black and white in different contexts, to throw off your fearfulness and act with courage for their race, challenging both white complacency and sometimes black hesitation in the fight for rights.
She also didn't just talk about abstract rights. She got very practical, didn't she? Challenging the systemic barriers that prevented Black people from actually participating fully in society, especially economically.
Indeed. She specifically critiqued how black people were systematically shut out of common vocations, things like being printers, salesmen, mechanics, even government officials. She saw how this created a cycle of poverty and disenfranchisement.
So what was her solution?
She stressed the urgent need for cooperation of effort, and by a combination of their small means, to change the despairing poverty that trapped her community. Her message was both a moral call for equality and a practical blueprint for economic and social uplift through collective action and self-reliance.
Recognizing that freedom had to mean economic opportunity, not just a legal status on paper.
Exactly. Real freedom.
Following Sojourner Truth's powerful testimony, Frederick Douglass delivers an equally, maybe even more, scathing indictment of American hypocrisy in his iconic speech, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." This is just a masterpiece of rhetorical power.
Douglas's speech is precisely that, a masterclass. He turns the very celebration of American independence into this sharp, bitter critique of its foundational contradiction. It's stunning.
How does he do it?
He begins by acknowledging the holiday of the celebration, but then pivots hard, declaring, "This 4th of July is yours, not mine." Boom. Right there.
Wow. Sets a tone immediately.
And then he delivers these vivid, almost unbearable descriptions of the horrors of the internal slave trade. He talks about men and women reared like swine for the market, driven with droves of human stock from places like the Potomac down to New Orleans.
He doesn't hold back.
No. He strips away any romanticism, any polite euphemisms. He highlights the barbarity, the tearing apart of families, the utter dehumanization in stark, undeniable terms. Leaves no room for sentimentality.
And he didn't spare anyone in his condemnation, did he? He pointed fingers directly at both religious and political institutions for being complicit.
Not at all. He boldly condemned American Republican politics and Republican religion for their flagrantly inconsistent behavior. He asserted they actively supported and perpetuated slavery despite all their purported ideals of liberty and Christianity.
How did he challenge the religious leaders?
He accused them directly of teaching that we ought to obey man's law before the law of God, thereby sanctioning an immoral institution. He basically said they turned Christianity into a tool of oppression, a mere Christianity that served the slaveholders. He just stripped away their moral authority right in front of them.
The irony he points out about America's stance on liberty must have been absolutely chilling for his audience, especially those who were complicit.
It was absolutely designed to be profoundly unsettling. He emphasized the stark contrast between America's passion for liberty and self-determination for other nations. He mentions Hungary, France, Ireland.
Right, supporting revolutions elsewhere.
Exactly. And then contrasting that with their being cold as an iceberg at the thought of liberty for the enslaved of America. He exposed the complete moral selective vision of a nation claiming to be a beacon of liberty while practicing its brutal opposite right at home.
Just holding up a mirror to that hypocrisy.
Rhetoric.
Incredible.
Powerful rhetoric.
Okay, moving into more modern struggles for equality, Ruth Bader Ginsburg's life was just this testament to persistent, methodical, legal activism. She was chipping away at these deeply entrenched norms and sexist legal structures for decades.
Ginsburg's pioneering work really took place in a historical context where laws that mandated differential treatment for men and women were often seen, even by judges, as benign or maybe even protective of women.
But they weren't really protective, were they?
Not in practice. These laws, even if seemingly well-intentioned on the surface, actually perpetuated inequality by limiting opportunities for women in education, employment, finance, you name it. She dedicated her career to systematically dismantling these structures, proving that what was presented as protection was, in fact, restriction.
How did she even go about charting a path for reform in such a challenging, seemingly unchangeable legal environment? It must have felt like trying to move a mountain sometimes.
It was a monumental task, no doubt, but she had an incredibly strategic mind. A key tool, almost unexpectedly, came from the government itself, the Department of Defense's Appendix E.
Appendix E, what was that?
It was basically a computer printout that meticulously listed every single federal law that differentiated on the basis of sex. Hundreds of them.
Wow, like a catalog of discrimination.
Exactly. And Ginsburg recognized this not just as a problem, but as a roadmap for reform efforts. She used it to identify targets for new legislation and, crucially, to bring specific, carefully selected cases to court.
Cases designed to do more than just win.
Yes. Cases designed to capture public attention, to educate judges who were mostly male and maybe hadn't thought deeply about these issues, and to accelerate a broader shift in legal and societal thinking about gender equality. It was a systemic, step-by-step, very patient approach.
She also had a really nuanced perspective on things like diversity and affirmative action, didn't she? Understanding the complexities, especially in a country still grappling with historical injustices.
She absolutely did. She believed profoundly that we will all profit from a more diverse, inclusive society, understanding, accommodating, even celebrating our difference while pulling together for the common good.
And how did she respond to that argument you sometimes hear? The way to stop discrimination on the basis of race is to stop discriminating on the basis of race.
She countered that simplistic view directly. She highlighted the crucial legal and practical difference between the use of race-conscious criteria to keep the races apart, like in segregation,
Right.
and the use of race-conscious criteria to bring the races together. It's about understanding the intent and the historical context. One use perpetuates segregation and inequality. The other aims to remedy historical exclusion and foster genuine integration and opportunity.
That distinction is critical. Intent and outcome matter.
Hugely.
And Ginsburg's approach to judicial dissent became particularly impactful, didn't it? Especially later in her career when the court shifted and she was often on the losing side of major cases. She seemed to transform dissent into something more.
Yes, she absolutely understood the strategic importance of dissent. It wasn't just about recording her disagreement for history, particularly her practice of delivering oral summaries of the dissent from the bench.
Reading them aloud in court, why was that so significant?
It was a deliberate act. It drew public attention, media attention. It allowed her to articulate alternative legal reasoning with clarity and passion directly to the public and maybe to future lawmakers. It aimed to influence future legal thought, even when her side lost that particular battle.
Can you give an example?
Her bench dissent in Ledbetter v. Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company is maybe the most famous. She powerfully highlighted the injustice of the court's ruling regarding pay discrimination timelines, and she essentially called on Congress to act.
And they did, right. The Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act.
Exactly. Her dissent directly inspired that legislative action. Her dissents became a kind of call to action, a voice for those negatively impacted by the majority opinion, echoing across time for future courts and citizens.
Shifting to another incredible, powerful voice that challenged indifference head-on, Elie Wiesel, the Nobel laureate, Holocaust survivor. He spoke so profoundly, chillingly about the peril of indifference itself, seeing it as the ultimate moral failure.
Wiesel made the haunting, unforgettable assertion that indifference now is equal to evil. Coming from his experience, that carries immense weight.
Equal to evil. How did he explain that?
He argued, from the depths of his personal suffering, that the opposite of culture isn't ignorance, the opposite of faith isn't atheism, the opposite of morality isn't immorality. In all these cases, the true opposite is indifference.
Indifference is the real enemy.
He saw indifference as a silent accomplice to the world's greatest horrors. It creates a neutral ground that, in practice, always favors the oppressor by denying the victim their humanity, their suffering. To be indifferent for Wiesel was to become complicit in the suffering of others.
And he felt a particular despair, an almost desperate urgency about the assault on Jewish memory, didn't he?
But
Especially concerning the Holocaust. He saw this as a continuation of that same indifference.
he did. Wiesel spoke powerfully and often about attempts to discredit the survivors' legitimacy, to minimize the historical reality of the Holocaust, or to distort its lessons for political purposes.
Why was memory so critical for him?
He felt this desperate urgency for remembrance because he saw the erosion of memory as a profound threat, not just to Jewish history, but to all of humanity's capacity to learn from its darkest chapters. To forget, or to allow others to deny the truth, was for him the ultimate form of indifference. It allows the seeds of future atrocities to be sown again.
A terrifying thought. Finally, let's just touch upon leadership and the complexities of movements, because historical change, as we've seen, is often far more nuanced and challenging than we might imagine looking back.
Absolutely. Theodore Roosevelt, for instance, provides an interesting perspective on leadership and government power. He had this strong conviction about the necessity of governmental power to serve the common good.
How so? Wasn't power supposed to rest with the people?
Well, he believed that while in theory, now the governmental power rests in the people, in actual practice, what the people sorely need is the extension of governmental power.
An extension. Why?
To counter the disproportionate influence of what he called the kings of the financial and industrial world, he argued these powerful interests always clamor for the limitation of governmental power, precisely to protect their own interests, often at the expense of the average citizen.
So he saw active regulative leadership as essential.
Yes, essential for ensuring economic justice and protecting ordinary people. A very different view from purely laissez-faire approaches.
And speaking of leadership and movements, it's so easy, maybe even comforting sometimes, to romanticize iconic historical figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and simplify the narrative of how change happens, but the reality is often far more complex.
Oh, absolutely. Theodore M. Shaw offers a really crucial, non-romanticized understanding here. He highlights that even figures as iconic as Dr. King face just immense, almost unimaginable challenges.
It wasn't just external opposition.
No, the movement itself, Shaw points out, was often roiling and divided. There were intense internal disagreements, strategic debates, personality clashes. It was messy.
And King wasn't universally followed.
Shaw makes it clear. Most people, even most African Americans, did not march with him. Nor was Martin Luther King Jr. the leader of the civil rights movement in some kind of monolithic singular sense.
That's important context.
It really is. This perspective underscores that even the greatest movements are built on collective, often fragmented efforts. They face internal dissent. They require immense courage, persistence, and strategic genius from many, many individuals to navigate incredibly complex and often dangerous circumstances.
It reminds us that change is rarely a singular unified act, but more like a messy, courageous, ongoing struggle involving many different voices and strategies.
Exactly. Much less tidy than the history book sometimes suggests.
Wow, what a journey we've taken today. We've really delved into the profound architecture of persuasion, haven't we? Explored those rich inner landscapes of personal growth, resilience, and witnessed the courageous advocacy that challenges injustice and apathy head-on.
Yeah, from Aristotle's logical structures and Plato's, ethical demands, all the way to Sojourner Truth's righteous moral indignation and Frederick Douglass's scathing critiques.
And then from Seneca's stoic strength to Brené Brown's call for vulnerability, it feels like a consistent, powerful truth emerges, doesn't it?
It really does. That profound change, whether it's intensely personal or broadly societal, so often begins with a clear voice, a strong, unwavering conviction, and just the immense courage to actually act on it.
It's clear that the ability to articulate a compelling vision, to cultivate that internal fortitude and to stand against the tide of indifference or injustice, these are truly timeless skills. They just echo across centuries.
And these sources we've discussed, they offer not just historical accounts, but really practical guides, powerful insights, sometimes uncomfortable truths. For anyone, really, seeking to make a mark, find their purpose, or inspire those around them.
Food for thought, definitely.
And maybe, as you reflect on these insights, you might consider this. What aspect of your own life or perhaps your community is calling for your voice right now, your conviction? or maybe just a moment of courageous action.
How might you apply some of these principles we talked about? Maybe to uncover the acres of diamonds in your own environment, or to speak truth to power with both logic and emotion, or perhaps simply to engage with a bit more intentionality and maybe a little less indifference in your daily interactions.
The tools, as we've seen, are ancient. The challenge is always present. And the power. Well, as we've learned today, it often lies much closer than you think, just waiting for you to recognize it and unleash it.